Page 2 now. The power of the people in their pushback against a disrespectful NFL. The protests by players during the national anthem are having a negative impact on television ratings, and lower ratings mean fewer advertiser dollars. Case in point, financial analysts with a major multinational financial services company are downgrading earnings per share for 21st Century Fox. The reason? NFL ratings are coming in below market expectations. This as more and more Americans are changing the channel.
The price of patriotism. War veteran Ralph Blydenberg canceled the VFW's NFL Sunday ticket. He promised not to show NFL games while some of the league's players kneel during the national anthem. He says it's not the protest, it's the platform.
They don't believe that everybody is treated equally in the United States of America. And, perhaps that is true.
Do you believe that?
I believe that. There's a time and a place to voice their opinions about anything at all. And that's what America stands for. If you have an opinion, you're permitted to voice it any way you want, but not at other people's expense.
VFW will be switching out their NFL menu for a baseball one. They're hoping to bring up sales and call for unity.
I think if everybody in America, lived the way we do on a battlefield, they'll understand that, the person next to you is your equal, no matter what.
So the NFL continues to thumb its collective nose at its fan base. But that base is no longer standing for players not willing to stand for our national anthem. Joining me now from San Francisco, California, branding advisor to CEOs and author of Brand is Destiny, The Ultimate Bottom Line, Marc Rudov. Marc, thank you so much for being here. Marc, I have in front of me an article that you wrote back in August of 2016, and it's titled 49ers Colin Kaepernick should keep it off the field. You were right then, and you're still correct today.
Yes, nothing pleases me more than to hear that I'm correct. Stephanie, it was just common sense. When you thumb your nose at customers, they leave. And the NFL really shouldn't call itself the National Football League if it wants to condone this behavior. It should be called the Narcissists Football League or the Private Football League. But when you put national in your name, you're associating yourself with America. And National Football League, national anthem. They kind of go together. What these players are doing is they're being as sanctimonious as the Oscar winners and the Emmy winners who stand up there and they condescend to America. It's ridiculous. Adam Silver, who's the commissioner of the National Basketball Association, the NBA, said all the players will stand. And I have not heard any fights, any riots, any protests. They're just going to do it. So this is all about ego and it's about attention, but it's not about the fans, and that's why they're losing money.
And it's just kind of a confusing message. You know how this all started with Kaepernick, and he said that he wasn't going to stand up to show pride in a flag for a country that oppresses black people and people of color. Well, then this morphed into now people are going to protest the president, and they're protesting police officers. I mean, the messaging with this is we don't even know why they're kneeling. Some of these players probably don't even know why they're kneeling. They're just trying to score political points with a crowd that isn't really interested in their politics.
That's right. And Colin Kaepernick has every right to take his grievance, I should say, off the field, hire a press team because he was making $19 million per year. He can write a book, he can run for office, he can do all of those things, but he can't use his employer's workplace to stage protests. As I wrote in that article, can you imagine somebody in a company in America staging an anti-abortion rally on the front lawn of corporate headquarters, and that the CEO would just look the other way? Of course you can't imagine it. It would never happen. You can't do touchdown dances. You can't put stickers on your helmets. You can't wear the shoes you want to wear. There are rules in the NFL for how to behave. But this is all about race and the owners fearing, out of political correctness, they're fearing attacks and being labeled as racists. So they're breaking their own rules, and the fans are leaving. Pretty soon the NFL will mean no fans left. The TV ratings are down. The stadiums are half empty. It's as if they're playing for themselves and not for the fans. It's really kind of pathetic. And branding is all about an emotional connection with your customer. And what is the emotional connection to the NFL customer? It's now becoming hatred.
Yeah, and when we have minority athletes like Colin Kaepernick, who back then signed a 6-year contract for $114 million, that's a lot of money. Most of the fans don't make anywhere near that type of money. These are hardworking people. The average family of 4 lives off of $50,000 a year in this country. So these athletes are totally out of touch when they're talking about how they're oppressed and that they're experiencing all this racism and problem, yet they're like the top 1% of this country. And these people, all they want to do is go watch a game without being lectured, without being scolded by these athletes that they're racist. And so that's why a lot of people are turning away. Now, when we talk about First Amendment rights, the athletes have First Amendment rights, but like you said, just don't do it on the field. If you want to have a platform, take it somewhere else. But the NFL is very specific on what they allow and what they don't allow. So they'll allow athletes to disrespect our anthem and flag, but they will not let athletes honor the fallen officers in Dallas. They won't let that happen. They wouldn't let athletes honor the 9/11 victims. And you have to wonder, why these athletes hate cops so much. The ones that are kneeling, not all of them are kneeling, some of them. And there's this website that shows almost every 7 days there's an NFL player that's arrested for crimes committed. I mean, these are some pretty bad crimes. We have DUIs, domestic violence, the list goes on. And I have this one picture that I found online. It was an article from not too long ago. There was an athlete that starved his dog to death, and he went to jail for this. I mean, this just shows a lot about the team. What do you make of this website? Have you heard of it? It's NFLarrest.com. And this athlete that we're looking at, his name is Terrence Cody. He was with the Baltimore Ravens, sentenced to 9 months in prison for starving his dog.
Well, don't forget, Michael Vick went to prison for mistreating dogs also. But the NFL is rife with wife beaters and rapists and guys who get into trouble all the time. But when you're rich and famous and you stand up in front of a microphone and you claim that you're being treated unfairly, I mean, come on. And the fact of the matter is, what you're doing is you're citing a lot of facts, and facts get in the way of the narrative. And if you look at the FBI crime statistics, blacks are more likely to shoot cops than to be shot by cops. And if you look at black murders in this country, 90% of them are perpetrated by other blacks. So this has nothing to do with anything factual. It's just that at the time Colin Kaepernick staged his protest 14 months ago, Barack Obama, elected twice in this country by a white country, was not playing. And he started going out with this woman who was changing him. And he just started to turn the gridiron into grievance. And the fans don't, and I predicted in that article that he would be shunned, and he has been. And I predicted this would spill into other sports, and it has. And you even see little kids now doing it. They don't even know why they're doing it. And you also mentioned the First Amendment. The First Amendment protects us from the government. It doesn't protect us from our employers. Employers have the right to set rules in the workplace for what can and cannot be done and said. And, the University of Pennsylvania Annenberg Center just a few weeks ago did a survey of Americans and found out that 40% of them don't even know what the First Amendment is. So a lot of people throw around First Amendment, First Amendment, First Amendment. They don't even know what they're talking about. You don't, as I said, you don't have the right to go into your workplace and utter any expletives you want. You can't kneel on the floor when customers are there. You can't do all of these things. In football, if you're running with the ball and your knee touches the ground, the ball is dead. And if the players keep kneeling, the game of football is going to be dead.
Mark, we're almost out of time, but I just wanted to get your reaction to the commissioner's comments. He says that, they're not demanding players to stand for the anthem. He sent a letter to all the players saying, they wish they would stand. What advice would you give him as a branding expert?
What I would advise him is to get out of his ivory tower and start mixing with real fans and stop playing the elitist game and start getting the game of football back to football. And remember, the customers are going to determine how rich you become. So his $40 million per year salary is based on ticket sales and TV rights. And if ticket sales keep dropping, and if people stop watching the game, as you can see, Sunday football is down, Monday night football is down, Thursday night football is down. At some point, who's going to be paying the salaries of all these elitist blowhards? What I would advise them to do is to wise up and remember, the customers rule.
Exactly. And we didn't even get into the advertiser part, but the advertisers that are hanging on and paying these teams and the NFL the billions of dollars with the contracts that they have, they're part of this problem. So, but they're starting to take notice. Mark, we got to run. Thank you.